The Willow Creek case was closed. Emily Cross was buried. But a stolen recorder says otherwise. Sometimes, the most shocking evidence isn't found in a file. It's in a voice that was never supposed to be heard. When Daniel Cho pressed play on that recorder, the Hollow's illusion cracked. And the name that slipped through? Emily Cross. Alive. This is unheard evidence, where the fact speaks louder than words. The motel smelled like damp carpet and stale coffee, the kind of nowhere that clung to transient rooms. Daniel sat on the edge of the bed, the federal report spread across his knees. But he wasn't reading anymore. The words blurred: malfunction, misfire, mistaken identity. A script written before the bodies hit the floor. He could hear the screams still, threaded through the static. Not just noise, not just interference. A recording. The Hollow had fed it directly into his headset while the task force spun blind. He knew then, the choice he made hadn't been a choice at all. He was inside their cage. By morning, he was already gone. Credit cards cut into thirds. Phone smashed in the motel sink. He left the rental car parked 2 blocks from the Greyhound station, keys in the visor. He traveled under his old cop instincts. Cash only, off-grid transit. No straight lines. It didn't matter. Somewhere in the hum of the bus engine, he swore he heard it again. Cho! A single syllable, buried under mechanical rattle. No one else flinched. Just him. 2 days later, he sat in the corner booth of a diner off Route 26, hood up, back to the wall. The waitress filled his cup twice without looking. He checked the mirrors every time the door opened. It was habit. But this time, when a man in a gray suit walked in, no badge, no introduction, Daniel knew who he worked for. Federal Task Force. The man slid into the booth opposite him. No greeting. Just a folded nudge across the formica. You can still come back, the man said quietly. You've got skills we need. Don't make this harder. Daniel didn't open the folder. Didn't need to. He could feel the weight of the trap inside it. You think I'm running, Daniel said, voice flat. I'm not. I'm cutting the wire you're holding. The man's expression never shifted, but his hand twitched near his jacket pocket. Daniel was faster. He slid out of the booth before the man could move, leaving cash on the table. The door's bell jangled once. By the time the man stood, Daniel was already gone. That night, he started burning the real bridges. He called in markers from old state police contacts, not to meet, but to erase. DMV records, badge logs, gun registry entries. He sent coded messages on dead channels he knew the feds had long since abandoned. Bait lines, designed to light up on the Hollow's grid. He wanted to see if they'd bite. And they did. Within hours, burner phones across 3 counties rang with the same automated tone. 1 long, 2 short. Not police. Not federal. Hollow. They weren't hunting him. They were herding him. By the 4th day, sabotage arrived in the open. His motel keycard stopped working. Desk clerk swore it had been canceled by corporate with no record of his name ever booking. His ATM withdrawals flagged fraud alert, even though he hadn't used a card since leaving. And at a rest stop outside Prineville, his reflection in the bathroom mirror was briefly overlaid by static, just for a breath, just enough to see his own face blur like tape stretch. Cho, the Hollow didn't care about subtlety anymore. Daniel sat on a highway embankment that night, truckers roaring past, notebook open on his knees. On the first page, he wrote 2 words in block letters. No return. Below that, he started sketching a map. Every false trail he could lay. Every contact he could salt. Every signal he could flood the system with until the Hollow had to show its hand. He wasn't just running anymore. He was going to burn their script. And if that meant burning himself with it, so be it. But even as he drew the first line, headlights cut across the gravel lot. A car slowed, engine idling. Daniel's pen stilled. The passenger window rolled down just enough for a voice to carry across the night. Cho. No static this time. No distortion. Human. Male. Alive. Someone had stepped out of the hiss. The car idled 10 feet from where Daniel crouched. Gravel dust swirled around the headlights, turning the beam into a white curtain. He couldn't see the driver's face, just the outline of a man, shoulders squared, head tilted toward him like this was a planned meeting. Then the voice again. Cho. This time, It wasn't clipped through a speaker or smeared by static. It was solid, human vocal cords, carried across the Oregon night. Daniel rose slowly, every cop instinct screaming, "Don't close distance." He kept one hand loose near his belt, the other free at his side. No weapon yet. He needed eyes first. The window rolled down further. A pale, angular face leaned out, late 40s maybe, clean-shaven. Suit coat, not off the rack, tailored. A professional man. Could have been a Fed, a lawyer, a banker. But Daniel's gut told him he was none of those things. "You've been interfering," the man said. The tone wasn't hostile. It was flat, almost administrative. Like Daniel's life was a line item on some ledger. Daniel forced his breathing even. "I've been documenting." The man's lips twitched, a half smile that never reached his eyes. "And distribution." No point lying. They already knew. Safe hands. The man nodded once, as though confirming an entry in a file. Then his hand emerged from the open window, holding something small, metallic, glinting under the lights. Not a weapon. A recorder. Daniel's chest tightened. It wasn't one of theirs. It was one of his. His backup Olympus, the one he'd stashed in a storage unit outside Salem 2 months ago. Never logged, never used, never left behind. And yet here it was, in the man's hand. "Your channels aren't safe," the man said. "Your caches aren't yours. You're inside the hollow's perimeter now." Daniel fought to keep his face still. Inside, though, he could feel the heat crawl up his spine. This wasn't surveillance. This was breach. They weren't tracking him. They'd been inside his storage, his past, his habits. He swallowed once. "Why show yourself now?" The man tilted his head, like Daniel had asked a question with an obvious answer. "Because your window to comply is closing. Once you burn the wire, you can't return. This is your last chance." The words carried weight. Not threat, not plea, just structure. It sounded like policy. Daniel stepped forward one pace, careful to keep his hands open, neutral. "And if I don't comply?" The man didn't blink. "Then your trail freezes." The phrasing hit like a hammer. Trail freezes. The same language from the erase calls. The same verbal fingerprint he'd been chasing since Willow Creek. This was no proxy, no random messenger. This was an operational tie. The Hollow had stepped into his lane. The car's engine revved once. Sharp. The man set the recorder on the roof, tapped it twice with his knuckle, then rolled the window up. By the time Daniel lunged forward, the tires spit gravel and the car shot back onto the highway, taillight streaking red into the dark. He was left standing in dust and diesel, his own recorder glinting under the flood of a halogen street lamp. He picked it up. His thumb brushed the worn plastic. Still warm. And when he hit play, his stomach turned to stone. Not static. Not coded tone. A voice. Female. His not supposed to know my name. Emily Cross. The Willow Creek victim. Alive on tape. Daniel's knees almost gave. He braced himself against the guardrail. Recorder pressed to his ear. He replayed it 3 times. Same voice, same trembling cadence. It wasn't an echo of old police evidence. This wasn't an archive. The microphone hiss was too clean, too modern. It was current, which meant Emily Cross's death certificate wasn't the end of her story, which meant the Hollow wasn't just freezing trails. They were rewriting them. Daniel didn't move for 20 minutes. Trucks thundered by, each blast of wind pushing at his jacket like a shove to get going. Finally, he pocketed the recorder, pulled his notebook free, and wrote in thick black ink, "Hollow is human. Hollow is present. Emily equals active." The last word trembled under his hand. For the first time in months, the ground rules had shifted. The Hollow wasn't untouchable. But it wasn't untouchable because it wasn't a ghost. It was men in suits, with access, with reach, and with voices that carried into the night. And they just told him the cost of refusing. If the Hollow can rewrite history, what else have they already erased? Subscribe to Unheard Evidence for more cases the world was never meant to hear.